What's going on, YouTube? It's your man Supreme, and welcome back to the Real Rap Show. Santra Rucker sentenced to 390 years in federal prison. Now, before we get this episode started, I want to say thank you to everyone that has been tuning in to the Real Rap Show since day one. Everyone in the comments, and also everyone that gives me great feedback about the show. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so y'all can stay notified whenever I drop a new episode of The Real Rap Show. Follow The Real Rap Show on Instagram at It's The Real Rap Show. Now let's get this started. Santra Rucker was born in Maryland in 1969. Growing up, Santra had a good upbringing, but when Santra got to high school, she was one of the most popular girls there. She was light-skinned, her hair was always done, and she was very well dressed. A lot of the popular guys wanted to date Santra around this time. You know, back then, the early 1980s, the mid-1980s, and the early 1990s, in places like DC, VA, Maryland, it was murder capital. This is also the time it was a lot of niggas getting money out the drug game. It also was the beginning of New York drug dealers selling drugs out of state. In places like DC, Virginia, North Carolina, you could go to DC, Maryland, Virginia, and you would see more New York niggas out there selling drugs than you would see the niggas that was from out there selling drugs. And it was the prophet that was doing this, because you could sell a dime of crack for $20 out there. Everything was double, sometimes triple the profit. Drug dealers from New York would get murdered on a daily basis out there. And New York dudes was going out there already on some murder shit because they knew those DC cats, those VA cats will kill you in a heartbeat. They did not like New York niggas coming out there taking all their women and, most importantly, their drug clientele. Y'all heard the stories, and if you haven't, I told the story. The real reason Alpo was killed. That video has reached over 1 million views. But your man Alpo thought that DC was sweet, and them DC niggas tried to kill his ass out there too. Now, Alpo did what he did in DC. We gotta give him that. Alpo did go out there and tear DC the fuck up. But a lot of New York dudes went out to these places and never came back. And if they did, it was 25 years later. Now, back to the story. Now, Santra was a popular shorty in her neighborhood, being that she was attractive, she knew everybody, and everybody knew her. Not in a bad way, but Santra was into doing hair, so most of her popularity came from school. And in places like Maryland and Virginia, even down in the South, those towns are real small, and everyone usually goes to the same school, you feel me? That's what I mean when I say everybody pretty much knows everybody by first and last name. So Santra knew all the local drug dealers and a lot of the drug users. Then there was a very known drug dealer from East New York, Brooklyn, that came to Maryland, and Santra caught this dude's eye. Now, we about to get deep, because what I'm gonna do is break down what New York niggas was doing or what had to be done in order to set up shop out of state to sell drugs. Tear the comments up, because back then, when you got out of town or out of state, the first thing you had to do was find a girl that knew everybody. You had to find a girl that had her own crib. You had to find a girl that was easy to manipulate. You had to find a girl that was attractive, that knew how to dress, and most importantly, that was turned on by dudes from New York. Because I'ma say this, and y'all ladies, y'all can say whatever y'all want, but North Carolina women, Virginia women, DC women, Maryland women, South Carolina women, even women from Atlanta, these women will get in the bed with you on the same day that you meet them. Hit the like button. They are known to fall madly in love with you in less than a week, to the point this woman will start to let you stay in her house. She'll start buying you stuff and all that. Light those comments up. This is the kind of woman that you need to operate out of state. And before you know it, this woman is holding drugs for you, holding guns. She's now telling you how the town is, who the major players are, who's pussy, who's a killer, who got money, who don't, etc., etc. Without a girl like that, you could not hustle out of state. So when New York niggas made plans of going out of state, the first thing was we gotta find a bitch that's stupid, and that's it. Once we fuck them, make them believe they wifey, we buy them some jewelry, it's basically lit from there. Am I right or wrong, y'all? Now back to the story. So Kendu and Santra are now in a relationship. Kendu has set up shop in Maryland selling crack and cocaine base. Kendu is buying keys of cocaine from New York and then bringing the keys back to Maryland, breaking it down and selling it to the local dealers. Like I said before, the profit out there is double, sometimes triple. Like, for instance, an 8-ball of crack back then would most likely run you about $125. He could take that 8-ball and sell that same 8-ball for $350. And the money started to roll in real fast. Kendu started buying Santra a whole bunch of new clothes, jewelry. You know, back then, you could look at a girl and be able to tell if she was the girlfriend of a drug dealer just by how much jewelry she had on or the clothing that she wore. Now, I'm not sure if Santra was doing this, but these girls would attract other hustlers and then squeeze information out of them to give to their drug dealer boyfriends, and niggas was getting killed like that. You know, that's how certain drug dealers could, go to these towns and take over the town, as they say it, is because they couldn't do that by themselves. 99% of the time when these things took place, these guys found some big mouth girl in the hood that was gullible and was telling everybody's business. Hit the like button. Now, this dude Kendu had drug spots in Brooklyn that was making a lot of money. Santra had never been to New York, so there were times Kendu would bring Santra with him when he came up to New York, and she would meet a lot of dudes that respected Kendu. But Santra never knew Kendu was selling drugs. I'm not sure what he told her that he was into, but Santra was a schoolgirl and she wasn't a street girl like that, so she believed whatever Kendu told her, and Kendu continued to become a drug kingpin out there and now had drug spots in Maryland and Virginia. But in Kendu's drug business, he never involved murder. He wasn't into killing people. He was only about the money and the drugs. Santra got pregnant by Kendu and gave birth to a baby girl in 1997. That's when shit started to get hot. A lot of Kendu's dealers in Brooklyn started getting busted with large amounts of money and drugs, and the feds were now building a case on Darryl Kendu Raleigh and his associates in Maryland and Virginia. About a year went by, and Kendu continued to buy drugs from New York and sell the drugs in Maryland and Virginia. Santra was at home with the baby. Then, crackheads and local dealers in Maryland began to get busted with drugs, and niggas started talking. But Kendu moved around so much that the feds couldn't really track his moves. Shit was on fire. There were now drug addicts that were arrested and agreeing to wear a wire and were now focusing on Kendu's girlfriend, Santra Rucker. Everybody knew Santra. Everybody knew she was Kendu's girlfriend. Like I said before, a lot of the drug users most likely knew Santra even before Kendu. And there were now people out there wearing wires, going around people and starting conversations about Santra, trying to get someone to involve Santra's name in a drug deal. And this went on for months, but the feds ended up with nothing but a bunch of recordings of crackheads gossiping about how fly Santra was and all the nice things that she had. In between them joking and smoking crack, the feds had no luck in involving Santra's name in any drug deals. The crackheads then told the feds They had Santra's phone number and was going to call her and arrange a drug buy. With the feds listening, they caught Santra, but she never answered the phone. At the time, Santra was on vacation in Jamaica and her nephew was staying at her house while she was away. Meanwhile, a well-known drug dealer from New York had got killed, and Kendu and Santra attended the funeral service. At the funeral, there was a lot of big-time drug dealers that was there. Also at the funeral was the feds, and they were there taking pictures of everyone that was there. They also had federal agents outside planted with video cameras recording everyone that was coming in and out of the funeral home. They had pictures and video of Santra talking to all of Kendu's friends who were big-time drug dealers. The feds didn't arrest anyone, they just took pictures and video. Kendu had bought a house in Virginia where him, Santra, their daughter, and her nephew had lived. The police had busted a crackhead that said he bought the drugs from Santra's house. The police then raided Santra's home and arrested her, Kendu, and her nephew. Inside Santra and Kendu's Richmond, VA home, the police recovered large sums of money and drugs. The feds already had a crack distribution case on Kendu. They were just waiting for the right time to make the arrest, and this was the one they was waiting for. And now that they were in custody, the feds began interrogating both Santra and Kendu. They mainly focused on Santra, trying to get her to cooperate and snitch on Kendu. But Santra's claim was that she didn't know anything about the drugs. She told the feds, "I had no idea he was selling drugs." Santra told the feds, "There's nothing to tell. I don't know anything." Santra and Kendu pleaded not guilty and decided to take the feds to trial. The trial lasted a few weeks. The feds had witnesses, wiretaps, informants, phone calls, and video footage. The feds also brought in video footage of Santra and Kendu at that drug dealer's funeral up in New York. They used that footage to say that Santra knew exactly what Kendu was doing, because in the video, you could see Santra laughing and communicating with a lot of those drug dealers. Santra said that she had no idea what Kendu was into. The court said, if you didn't know what he was into, how did you know all of those guys at the funeral service? The trial ended on January 27th, 1999. A jury found Daryl Kendu Riley and Santra Rucker guilty in the Eastern District of Virginia of conspiracy with intent to distribute 50 grams or more of crack cocaine and crack cocaine base under the Title 21 U.S.C. 846 and Title 21 U.S.C. 841. Santra Rucker was sentenced to 390 years. 13 life sentences, life on 13 counts of conviction. Daryl Kendu Riley was sentenced to 5 life sentences, life on 5 counts of conviction. Santra Rucker's family could not believe they gave her 390 years with no murders involved. Her family told the local news, "There are serial killers who don't get that much time." Santra Rucker was railroaded because she didn't want to tell on her boyfriend Kendu. Santra was also very confused about everything she learned about Kendu during the trial. Santra had plans on appealing her case, but when she did, her appeals were denied. Kendu's appeals were denied as well. Santra's daughter was 2 years old when she went to prison, and she was 33. Santra began serving her time at the Alderson Federal Camp for women. While she was there, a popular street magazine that focused on drug kingpins and hip-hop music called Feds Magazine heard about Santra's case and reached out to her and wanted to interview her. Santra agreed, and the interview went viral in the streets. Santra Rucker was put on the cover of the year 2000 issue of the Feds Magazine. That's when singer Alicia Keys read the interview and began writing Santra letters twice a week. Still, every appeal Santra filed was denied. Santra's mother also passed away while she was in prison, and her first young daughter, who had cerebral palsy. not the daughter that she had with Kendu. Santra got thousands of letters from people that read her interview in the Feds magazine. The Feds magazine would put the inmates' information in the interview so people could support them. Santra earned numerous degrees in prison, including certificates in culinary arts. She worked as a culinary assistant in Danbury. She helped open the Hazeltown Women's Facility. She got certificates in ice sculpturing, planting and landscaping, Microsoft Basics, and many, many more. The prison described her prison conduct as excellent. Santra was in prison with Jamila T. Davis and Aisha Hall, who served their time and was released. Santra's daughter fought for her mother's freedom for years. When she was only 2 years old when her mother was arrested. It wasn't until 2018 when President Obama granted 46 people clemency under the new Fair Sentencing Act, and Santra Rucker was granted clemency. Santra was coming home. And on March 19th, 2022, Santra Lavon Rucker was released from prison and reunited with her daughter and her family at 53 years old. Santra Rucker served 21 years in prison. Now, I want to say something to the young women that are out there that are involved with guys that want to be drug kingpins. These guys want to be down with gangs. These guys want to be drug dealers and want to hold guns and stuff like that. I want to send a message out to all the young women that are involved with guys that are like that. You can be a Santra Rucker. There are females that were just like Santra Rucker. They got tied up in the same kind of stuff that she did that will never get a chance at freedom. So to all the young women out there, once again, that are involved with these so-called guys from the streets, be mindful that just by knowing that young man could cost you your freedom. It's your man Supreme, and you were just tuned in to another episode of The Real Rap Show. Santra Rucker, sentenced to 390 years in federal prison. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so y'all can stay notified whenever I drop a new episode of The Real Rap Show. Y'all stay safe out there. Real rap.